All right, let's get right into this. We usually think about the universe as a story, right? A straight line from a beginning to some end. But what if it's not a story at all? What if what we're actually looking at is a causal system? Kind of like a cosmic program or an integrated circuit that's been designed for one very specific purpose. That's what we're going to explore today. A reality that's run by law, not just by a timeline.
And this right here, this is the central law of the entire system we're about to unpack. And believe me, it's not just some poetic line. It's a functional description of how reality actually works. These are the rules of the circuit. It kind of gives you this sense of mystery, but also a sense of this deep, profound order. So let's see what that order really looks like.
So to really get our heads around this, we need a different metaphor. Let's just set aside the idea of a narrative for a minute and start thinking in terms of code and circuits and protocols. Picture the universe as a program, a self-correcting, purpose-driven system built for a single, ultimate goal: return. So at its very core, what we're talking about is a cosmic rescue protocol. This isn't just a random chain of events. It's a meticulously designed architecture. Its whole job is to debug, to purify, and to guide consciousness back to where it came from through these repeating causal loops.
Now, every program needs an operating system, right? Some kind of foundational code that manages all the core functions. So the question is, what's the OS for this cosmic circuit?
Well, the source material points to a specific verse, Qur'an 2255, and calls it the symmetry lock. The best way to think about it is like the kernel of the universe's OS. It's the code that guarantees this perfect, unwavering balance between all the opposing forces, and it's what keeps the entire system from just crashing.
And what's really amazing here is just the sheer scope of this operating system. Look at what it's holding together. The most fundamental opposites in all of existence: life and death, fire and water. These aren't just chaotic forces running wild. They're actually managed variables inside one perfectly balanced equation.
Okay, so if the symmetry lock is the OS, what about the hardware? What are the actual components it's managing? Well, the circuit is built from very specific materials, and each one has a fixed, unchangeable job to do. This is basically the technical schematic for the whole circuit. You've got stone, which fixes things in place. It records truth, but it also blocks the flow. Then there's fire, which is the trial, the raw energy that can harden into ego. Water is the medium for mercy and pure knowledge. And iron? Well, iron is discipline. It's the tool you use to control the fire and forge a path right through the trial. And this slide just nails the dynamic between two of those key components. See, stone gives you weight. It records the truth, but it sinks. It doesn't give you a way back. Iron, on the other hand, governs and disciplines. It doesn't block the flow. It actually creates a passage through the trial of fire. So one fixes reality in place, and the other creates a path forward. So if stone just sinks and iron just governs, how do you actually get back? Well, that's where the connector comes in, the boat. It's made of wood, and it represents trust. It doesn't use the force of iron or the rigidity of stone. It yields. It floats. It is the vehicle that lets you navigate the circuit, carrying the truth right through the trials of fire and water. Okay, so we've got the OS, and we've got the components. But what happens when something goes wrong? I mean, every system has to handle errors, right? And this one is no different. It has its own built-in debugging protocol. This is it. This is the big one. The first critical error message in the entire system. This one statement, according to the source, is the exact moment that fire, that element of trial, hardens and crystallizes into ego. This is where the bug starts. And what's so crucial to get here is that this isn't just a moral problem. It's a functional error. It's a glitch in the processing, where objective measurement gets thrown out and replaced by subjective assumption. This one bug throws the entire circuit out of balance and kicks off the debugging loop. And here is exactly how the system debugs itself. The error, the ego, it builds a pressure until the local system just collapses under this maximum compression. But, and this is key, that collapse isn't the end. It forces a reset. Time itself actually turns inward, and silence becomes the space for a reboot, for a rebirth. I really want to pause on this for a second because this is a huge shift in perspective. In this framework, collapse isn't some divine punishment. It's a necessary automated function. It is the integrated circuit, literally, debugging itself in real time to get back to a balanced state. But what if an error is so deep, so completely embedded in tyranny, that the normal debugging loop just isn't enough? For that, the system has an ultimate failsafe. It's called the mercy override. This prayer from Asya, coming from inside the very heart of tyranny, it's presented here not as a simple wish, but as a powerful command. It's like a cosmic SOS that triggers the failsafe protocol, activating a return loop from inside the corruption itself. And this is the law that makes that override possible. Mercy is a force so fundamental that it can actually bend the rules of causality. It can trigger a return even before time has a chance to manifest a physical way out. So let's really define it within this system. Rahma, or mercy, is the ultimate emergency command. It's a force that can literally intervene, reroute causality, and kickstart the return sequence from the most impossible situations you can imagine. It is the system's most powerful tool for restoration. So we've looked at the OS, the components, the errors, and the overrides. But what is all this for? I mean, what is the final output of this entire incredible integrated circuit? The output is this three-stage process of purification. First, life is stabilized and preserved through restraint. Second, truth is relocated. It becomes a state of pure knowledge lifted above all the corruption. And finally, ascension, a clean exit from the causal loop with no decay. Now, what's really fascinating is how the source material links key figures to each one of these steps, which makes these abstract ideas feel so much more concrete. Yahya represents that stabilized life. Isa represents knowledge, relocated and preserved. And Idris represents that final stage, pure ascension. And this brings us all the way back to the unified law of the entire system. See, it's not just about the elements themselves, it's about how you choose to interact with them. This is the core instruction manual for navigating the circuit. If you cling to the past, the stone, you sink. If you submit to discipline, the iron command, you can pass through the trial. But if you enter the boat of trust, that is what completes the journey and allows for the final return. So we end on this question. If this model really holds true, if we are all just nodes inside this cosmic rescue protocol, it kind of forces you to ask yourself, in your own life, what is the pure signal that's guiding you toward return? And what's just noise, the static of ego and assumption that's disrupting your own circuit?